Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello. Hello. In the gloom.
Yes.
In the gloom.
It's 12 o'clock in the UK. It's time to start the Ergotron Hybrid Working Environment Seminar. So welcome to everybody that's here. What we'll be doing at this seminar is looking at the role of ergonomics in healthy work. And it's really good to have everybody attending this afternoon. So thank you very much for coming. We have three fabulous industry experts with us today, and I will let them introduce themselves because they'll do a far better job than I ever could. So let's start with the experts. And Sarah, could I ask you to introduce yourself to everybody here, please?
Thank you, Craig. Yes, hello everybody. My name is Sarah Arnold. I'm an optometrist. I live in the south of England. I've been working in academia and in independent practice for longer than I care to mention. Along with my colleague Debbie Young, we have set up Eyes for Work. We look after people's digital eye strain issues with an online assessment tool.
Debbie, could I ask you to carry on then, please? Could you introduce yourself next?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Debbie Young. I'm also an optometrist. I do a lot of medico-legal work, so I work for the GMC and the GOC. And I have also got a background in university lecturing and tutoring. And last year, Sarah and I set up a company called Eyes for Work that deals with people who are getting problems with their eyes when working on their computer screens.
Thank you very much. And last and by no means least, we come to John Walters. John, would you introduce yourself for the audience, please?
Hello, good afternoon to everybody. So my name is John Walters. My background is 25 plus years, a little bit more, in the wonderful world of commercial interior design and office furniture. I've always had a passion for workplace strategy, cultures, and for the people specifically. And a year ago, at the beginning of lockdown, my friend and now business partner, Sophie Higgins, and I set up Quest A Collective, and we deliver bespoke and specifically tailored 360 wellness programs to organizations and businesses that truly want to engage with and understand their employees, their people's well-being objectives.
Thank you very much. So those are the people. For those interested, I'm a psychologist, and I look at the workplace and the impact of design, management, and leadership upon how people feel and perform. My job's to chair today, obviously, but the three people you just heard from are the most important people today. Now, so the first round is on health issues, and John is to kick this off. So, John, if I can ask you then, what sort of things do people need to do to keep themselves engaged and motivated at work? Because not always is it easy to keep motivation going, especially when we're working from home and there's not a lot going on around us. So what do we do to keep motivation going?
I mean, it's a really important question, probably going to resonate with most people that hear this. Talking from personal experience, I have definitely woken up on some mornings and just thought, nah, I just haven't got it in me today to want to do anything, really. I think it's been really difficult because we've been stuck in the same place on almost feels like a hamster wheel. We've been looking at the same four walls, and it's tough. And we've still had life's challenges, plus a whole load of other challenges thrown at us. So it is really difficult to keep engaged. What I found very quickly was I was slipping into lethargy and non-motivation. And I found that actually by trying to re-engage with some routine, which I was enjoying my commute, bizarrely, I actually started to recommute. And that would be that I would have a specific get-up time. I would get up and then I would go and do some exercise. And that can be anything like going to the gym, going for a run, or even, do you know what, just having a walk around the block. But it was getting me outside. And it was only until I realized and looked at it closely why I was suddenly starting to find that I was getting more oxygen in my lungs, my heart was pumping, I was getting out into the fresh air, whether it was cold or warm or whatever, it didn't matter. I was getting outside and I was seeing something different, and that then set me up perfectly for the day. It was then a case of then keeping an eye on what I consumed and what I ate. And also I took regular breaks. I started setting my alarm to give me some regular breaks. And on those breaks, because I had it right on my doorstep, I could walk through the door, which is something we can't often do in the office. But I could just walk out the door for 5 minutes, and that just kept me engaged and motivated. And it's just, there's no right or wrong way. It's about finding what fits you, but that's what fitted for me. Just
thank you. Thank you. So if we can follow that up, Debbie, I mean, motivation, of course, affects how we all feel, but we look at things all the time. Eye health is going to be really important to us as well. And we can feel a bit grotty if our eyes aren't working properly. So is there anything that you could recommend in terms of how eyes can help keep us healthy and motivated at work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so much is known about ergonomics that actually very little attention has actually been paid to eyes. Yet they're a very, very important part of the working from home, working anywhere toolkit. And so with regards to what John has just said, taking regular breaks away from your screen, giving your eyes a break from looking at a pixelated screen is really important. And so, again, I would reiterate, having lots of breaks and giving your eyes a rest from the screen is vital in order to maintain comfortable, healthy working eyes.
Okay. And Sarah, was there anything you'd like to add to that in terms of eye strain?
Yes, I think one of the things that I noticed, well, a bit like John, so I was furloughed from my clinical role for 4 months, and that was very, very difficult to stay in the game, keep your head going, and routine was vital to that. And then when I went back to my clinical role, I was seeing people coming through the door complaining of all sorts of eye strain problems and not managing their own health in general, let alone their eye health, their posture. They were faced with lots and lots of challenges, and it's how you overcome those challenges. You have to become quite resourceful, and there are little adaptations that you can take to try and mitigate those. But certainly we've seen a lot more digital eye strain and all of the things associated with that, which is very demotivating for people coming in saying, I'm really worried about my health. They've been worrying for months about their health, because if somebody's got a bad headache, they're not naturally associating that with screen work. They might think they've got something wrong with their head, and so they worry about themselves. So really, it's really important to put themselves first and manage all their health issues and their eye strain issues, so that they relieve that worry and they can keep motivated, because that will keep them productive.
That's really interesting. How common is eye strain?
Oh, am I taking this one?
Yeah, either of you.
Well, actually, I think eye strain is something that will resonate with most people. And it's thought that about 90% of people will experience some sort of digital eye strain.
Wow.
And that's largely because the amount of time that we spend on our screens has literally doubled since March of last year. So the average used to be about 6.5 hours a day on a digital screen. It's now, according to recent studies, up to 13 plus hours per day on a screen. So it's very, very common. I mean, the College of Optometrists have coined a term, coronavision, because so many people are reporting problems with their eyes.
What are the long-term implications of that?
The long-term implications are good in the sense that actually digital eye strain is something that will go away when you walk away from your screen. So it's caused by looking at your screen, and equally it will be resolved if you give your eyes a break and get away from it. So it is not thought there are any long-term implications for digital eye strain. It's a case of managing it and avoiding it in the first place.
Well, that's quite comforting, at least, I suppose. John, if we can come back to something that maybe has a little bit more sort of chronic implications, as we sort of sit around all day, or I certainly do, eating too many biscuits and drinking too much coffee. Have you got any tips as to how, well, me in particular, but anybody watching this can stop being so indulgent and do something a little bit better?
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's coffee, tea, biscuits, Haribos, other
Oh, they've
sweet,
got to count.
other sweet brands are available. They're so easy to just dip into, and I think while we've been working from home, actually, for most of us, the cupboard has literally just been right behind us. You know, we've just been able to grab when we want, and coffee and caffeine, you know, and sweet. I think the challenge is it's very addictive, and the rush that you get from the caffeine and then the rush that you get from the sugar is gives you quite a nice feeling. The problem is we then drop off very, very quickly, and then if we're not really realizing or understanding why it drops off, we're then reaching for another coffee. In fact, just before we started, I had a conversation. I'm in a co-working space. I had a conversation with somebody I know, and he actually admitted this was around about 11 o'clock this morning. He was on his 5th coffee. But he also then said, I need it because I'm just not sleeping. I'm just knackered all the time. and I was kind of like, duh. But you know what? I did exactly the same thing. I was on that run. It was coffee, 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 coffee. And then, you know, grab for a Mars bar or grab for a can of Red Bull or a can of fizzy pop or something. There's no easy way out of it. It is literally just having to go cold turkey for a while, or just dropping down, noting how many you're having a day. I didn't realize how many I was having a day until a friend of mine's son did a survey for school. And then I was shocked, and then took some advice. And I dropped it. And now I still enjoy a coffee, but I will actually only have one in the morning, a decaf around about mid-morning, and then I'll drink herbal tea. Actually, the herbal teas, I get better now because I don't have so much sugar and I don't have so much coffee. My taste has improved massively. So I actually enjoy herbal teas, or just lemon teas or ginger teas. Or actually, do you know what? I just enjoy water. You know, and actually for the big thing, it's about hydration, because caffeine is also a diuretic. So, you know, we feel much more dehydrated at the end of the day of drinking lots of coffee. The sugar is a really difficult one, because that is highly, highly addictive. And I've tried to cut that right out. But in terms of tips and advice for people who aren't maybe, or recognize, a lot of people don't recognize or don't see that they're indulging. They don't record how much they're eating. They just do. But it's actually, that's the key. And then that'll probably shock you into, well, let's look at some alternatives. Let's eat some nuts rather than some sweets. Let's actually eat some more nutritious foods that will actually keep us fuller for longer. And the digestive, process is simpler, and we're not overworking our digestive system. Keeping hydrated will help that. It will also keep you more awake and more alive. And actually, once you get off that rat run, or that hamster wheel, it's so much easier to actually manage. You will then start to feel less tired. You'll feel less sluggish, and you'll feel more energized, and you'll get more energy out of different things.
Well, I'm quite disappointed that fruit pastels don't count as part of your 5 a day. But if I could turn to Debbie and Sarah, then,
in your mouth with chewing.
If coffee is a diuretic, so it's drying you out, does it have effect on your eyes? Dry eyes quite fun.
It does. So we do talk to our patients quite a lot about caffeine intake. There was a recent article, actually, I think it was this week, in the optical press, about too much caffeine being a risk for people with a family history of glaucoma. So it can increase your intraocular pressure, and that's not helpful if you have glaucoma or a family history of glaucoma. Again, it interrupts your sleep patterns. So if you're getting tired eyes, it's not great for that. You need a really good night's sleep. and it's dehydrating. So from a dry eye point of view, if you've got tired eyes and dry eyes, which is really very common when you're working on a computer screen, caffeine is just not helpful.
Right.
Yeah, so doing what John has suggested, which is great, taking the opportunity to take control of your diet and whip yourself into shape and change some habits is a really, really good plan.
One thing before we leave this, so you mentioned something I want to come back to. John, very quickly, if you would. I want to go on to the next round for other people, but quickly. What about if you are allergic to exercise and you really don't want to go out for that run or that walk? What can people do then?
Look, Craig, actually, you've heard me speak a few times, and one of the things that I say is exercise does not have to be triathlons every morning. For some, that's a kick, that's fine. But exercise can be anything from just walking around the block. It's just about getting the heart rate going and getting the blood pumping. It's also about breathing in a different way, and that will actually give you the energy and and that ultimately will then give you the motivation. Exercise can be walking to the shop. Exercise can be walking up the stairs. Exercise can be getting up from your table, from your desk, from your chair, walking into the kitchen and having a glass of water, and then walking to the bathroom to get rid of it, and then walking back. Every kind of movement is exercise. So Joe Wicks in the morning, when he was doing that, was fantastic, and that changed a lot of people's lives. But for a lot of people, they don't want to do that, and just having a bimble around the block is perfect.
Excellent. All right, folks, thank you very much for that. The next section of this talk, and before we go on to it, I should say that if you go into chat, you'll notice that there's a lot of people struggling to hear what's being said. We're having issues with time delay, we're having issues with buffering. So for those that are still with us, we will record this session and you can log in for a recording, and I know that Ergotron will send it on. So the second part then of today, we're looking at adaptive work, which is very much, of course, connected with ergonomics. And Sarah, if I can come to you, please, because, of course, ergonomics and eye level and all this kind of stuff is very important. So can we look at, for example, why is it important that the computer screen needs to be set up at eye level? And how important is it? Does it matter if it isn't? What can we do to make things right if we need to?
That's a lot of questions.
Yes,
very absolutely. So if you're working on dual monitors or on large monitors, really they should be in line with eye level, or at least your eye level should be in the top third of the screen, so that you've got neutral head posture. So an awful lot of people have screens which are high up, and they're looking up, so your neck is forced to tilt backwards. Or a lot of people working from home are on tiny little laptops and they're hunched over and looking down. So there are several factors that are helpful when you're keeping your screen at eye level. And the first one is the simplest, is that your field of view, so that's how much you see that way or that way, your field of view is optimal when you're viewing at eye level. And also your head is neutral, so you're not going to get neck and shoulder tension. And your eyelids are relaxed as well. So when you're blinking, it's nice and relaxed. When you're looking up, your field of view is compressed, but also you've got more of your eye open to the elements. You can get dehydration, and your neck is tilted back, so you can get neck pain. When you're looking down, similarly, the field of view is compressed, and you get neck pain. So we say for about every 15 degrees of neck tilt, because your head is very heavy, it doubles the shearing forces on your neck. So you're carrying a very heavy weight. So if you're at an angle bent down, that can be problematic over the course of the day. And a lot of people will recognize this. Oh, been on the screen all day, and the first thing they want to do is get their neck moving. So if they're not moving around a lot, that's certainly a problem. What can you do about it? If you're on a laptop, you can link it with the screen, a monitor. You can I have my laptop at home on a yoga block, so that I've got a neutral head posture, have it with a separate keyboard, separate mouse, so that I'm not compromising my ergonomic setup. So it's really important to have it at eye level.
So if I come to Debbie, just to continue this discussion, if I may, because if it sounds to me that if you have your eyes in the wrong position, you can get shoulder strain, you could get neck ache, which will probably throw your back out as well. So what else can we do to help our eyes adapt to the workplace? And I want to ask you another question as well. What can we do to make the workplace adapt to us?
Yeah, certainly. Just on the first thread of that question, we say that your body will always turn to where your eyes are looking. So wherever your eyes look, your body will follow. And so, reiterating what Sarah said, it's so important to maintain a neutral head posture and keep your screen height, the top of your screen, at your eye level. With regard to the adaptations you can make to make it more comfortable for your eyes when working at home, one of the things you need to really think about is where you position yourself within your room to minimize your glare. So ideally, you don't, for example, want to work facing a window or with your back to the window, because that's going to create reflected glare. Ideally, you should try and work at a right angle to the window. You want to look, for example, at the brightness of your screen and try to keep the brightness of your screen consistent with the brightness of your room. So, for example, if you're working in a low lit room, you don't want a really bright screen, or vice versa. So don't forget to play with your brightness buttons and try and adapt it. You don't have to have it on the same setting all the time. If you're wearing glasses, you might want to consider putting an anti-reflection coating on your specs. So I don't know whether you know that when light enters through a pair of specs, 4% of it is reflected at the front surface and a further 4% at the back surface. Therefore, 8% of incident light is actually reflected. So actually having an anti-reflection coating put on your glasses will actually help increase the amount of light that's getting through to your sight and improve it.
Gosh.
So there are lots of little minor modifications, but most of all, think about where you're setting up. And I appreciate that a lot of people might not have flexibility with regard to that, but think about using your curtains or your shutters and work in a position where you're not getting reflections.
Thank you. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm doing just about everything wrong, it seems. Right? And I mean, well, I don't think I'm too bad for 27, but all the same, I'm doing things wrong. So, John, let's come to you, because some things that people are doing at the moment, for example, as we work from home during coronavirus, is sitting at a dining room table, or sitting on the wrong type of chair, and stiff necks and aching backs and all kinds of things. So, how can we adapt our workspaces to suit us?
Well, I was just listening to Debbie then, and I was thinking, yeah, well, I sit in a bay, so I've got sort of light all around me, so I've got glare from every level. But I do use my curtains. I think it's a great idea to use to adapt the brightness of the screens. Sitting on a chair. Look, I sit on a dining chair. It's completely the inappropriate, it's the wrong height, it's the wrong type of chair. But what I do is I'm very conscious now of my screen level, number one. So I've actually invested in a laptop holder, but it can be put onto a yoga block or onto books. I have the separate keyboard and mouse. I play with the brightness, but I have a cushion behind me. Behind my back, just to give me a little bit of bolster, but I also get up and move. I'll be very repetitive. Get up and move, and as Sarah said before, the hunching, you feel that strain. We talk to all of our clients have said the same thing when they've been working from home. It is that strain here, and we work with a couple of movement experts who will actually show exercises that can be done very simply, very easily, and they're just to loosen off the shoulders, or just some neck exercises, things that we can just engage with. Again, going back to what I said before, it's about habit. And it's creating positive change, creating positive habits that are very, very simple to do. I set my alarm on my phone for about every 20 to 30 minutes, just to remind me to get up and move. And I will stand up because I'm sat on a dining chair with a cushion on a dining table. I'll stand up and I'll just move and I'll stretch. But I've also been known to use my ironing board because I don't have a sit-stand desk. Some people can, or you can get products that will sit on top of a table. But to be fair, if you've got the space, they're great. But if you haven't got the space, then what else can you do? Ironing board's great. Or if you've got a breakfast bar, you know, adapt your own environment. The one thing that conversations I've had with clients is, and I said this before, I'm stuck in the same box. I'm stuck in the same house every day. I'm sat at the same table, looking at the same view every single day. And I've got no distractions, you know, apart from when we're doing homeschooling. And that was a different challenge. But, you know, it was, I've just said to people, but, you know, you've got lots of other rooms. If you're reading, go and sit on an armchair or a sofa. If you're concentrating on something, set your alarm so you don't suddenly find that 2 hours have gone. And that goes back to the eye strain as well, because then, you know, you move around and you can actually gaze out the window and you can rest your eyes, but you're also stretching yourself out as well. It's about engaging with positive new habits, and the mobile phone with that alarm is great.
Right. I want to come back. First of all, if you're using your ironing board as a work surface, that explains why your shirts look the way they do, generally speaking. So that's that question answered away. But also, you've spoken a lot in adaptation about how we adapt to the home space. But if we're going to carry on working from home, we don't really want to use ironing boards. What need we do to make home working better for us?
I think employers need to step up and they need to guide their people and support them, because a lot of the things that we talk about it's not rocket science, and that's very easy to engage with, but it's not common knowledge and it's not common sense. Common sense is only when it's commonly known, and a lot of what we talk about, you can see the aha moment, but it's not commonly known. So we need to communicate this better. We need to share our experiences, and we need to share the tips and the tricks and the life hacks. And for that to happen, we can't expect us people and employees to go out and search for this information. They've got enough on their plate. Employers need to guide, support, nurture, and help their people to nourish and to thrive and expand whilst they're at their workplace, wherever that is going to be. And yes, it's very likely that there's going to be, you know, a very hybrid version of what we're used to. So, you know, utilizing and using those tools that we have at home is a way of doing it. So breakfast bar, and you know, using the ironing board and using the dining table.
Fascinating, thank you. It's really interesting how the eyes have to be at the right level to get the body in the right level, and then how the rest of the environment fits around us. And just before we go on to the next subject, either Debbie or Sarah, a similar kind of question. When we're setting up a home office for the eyes, again, rather than having to use blocks and everything, is there anything we should specifically do when we're working from home that we should buy, look for, develop, whatever?
Well, I think one thing is actually ensure you've got the right glasses on. As optometrists, the thing we see time and time again is somebody coming in with a pair of varifocals, looking
like that,
their specs like this, creating their neck ache, or they've got glasses that are too strong, so they sit forward, or vice versa. They're sitting back because they're not strong enough. And it's really important, if you're doing a lot of hours on a screen, that you've got a dedicated pair of spectacles that have been accurately prescribed for you as an individual, not wearing a pair of off-the-peg ready readers, and not wearing a multifocal such as a varifocal, which is, as I say, a very, very common problem.
Just a quick follow-up on that, because lots of people buy glasses off the peg these days. What are the downsides of doing that?
Well, that's okay. I think most people don't have two eyes the same prescription for a start. And off the peg glasses, they are just magnifying specs. So they just magnify, they're the same power in each eye. They're not centered at your optical centration. So that's that's where your actual eye lines up through the frame of your spectacles and the lens is set and in the right position. And that can create, if it's misaligned, that can create problems with eye muscles. It can actually give them harder work to do if the optical center isn't in the right place. So yes, they make things look bigger. People are also guesstimating, so they're guessing which power they should have. And it's really important that you know the distance you're sitting from your screen to inform that correct prescription choice. So it really is important. You know, your eyes work really, really hard. And they are one of the most important things that you'll use at work. So why not give them the best chance? I think a lot of people are nervous that buying prescription glasses is going to make their eyes work or make their eyes lazy. And I hear time and again people say, I work all morning on my screen and then I put my glasses on in the afternoon. I don't want to make my eyes lazy by wearing glasses. That's a complete old wives' tale. So wearing glasses just enables your eyes to work properly. It does not make them lazy.
You couldn't have speed up the next section better. I'm taking these bloody things off, actually. The final section is tips and tricks. And let's carry on. So, Debbie, any exercise we can do then to relax our eye muscles so things are a bit less tiring for us? I mean, it just follows on neatly from the specs, really. But
yes,
what can we do to help our eyes relax?
Perfect timing. Essentially, when you look at a screen, you are turning your eyes in, you're converging them, and also you're accommodating. So you're effectively putting pressure on the lens inside the eye to work a little bit harder and make the power a little bit stronger. So you've probably all heard of what's called the 20-20-20 rule. And I would really advocate that anybody working for any sustained length of time, for a couple of hours, something like that, on a screen, tries to take a break for their eyes every 20 minutes. So every 20 minutes, I'm working at a right angle here to my window, but I'm going to look out my window and I'm going to look into the distance. So I'm going to identify a leaf on a tree out there, and I'm going to look out there for 20 seconds. And I'm going to do that every 20 minutes. And the eyes are relaxed when they're looking at infinity. They're working hard when they're looking close to. So yes, giving your eyes lots of regular breaks, it de-stresses them. And that's a good idea.
Excellent, thank you. So, Sarah, let's continue that a bit, because our eyes get a hell of a battering over the course of the day. Is there anything else we can do to help them relax? I'm thinking, let's say, of eye drops or closing your eyes for a nap in the afternoon. Anything like that at all you could recommend?
I can
please recommend a nap.
Definitely an afternoon nap is excellent, particularly if it's part of your normal break from your screen at lunchtime after your walk. Yeah, blinking exercises, or it depends how you say that. There's blinking exercises, but blinking exercises are really useful. We get a bit dry when we're looking at a screen. The average number of times we blink per minute is about 12 to 14 times a minute. Not when we're on a screen. When we're on a screen, it can drop as low as 1 to 2 times a minute. So you need to blink to refresh the tear film. The tear film is really vital to your eyes being comfortable and your vision actually working well. We need good tears for good vision. So people with dry eyes complain a lot about their vision just being very variable and not very good. So bearing in mind, if you're not blinking very much, you need to blink more. You can combine your 20-20-20 break, that relaxing break, with a quick burst of blinking exercises. And that's really forcing a blink. So 4 little blinks and then a forced blink. And you will feel how moist your eyes feel with that forced blink. And if you do that every 20 minutes as well, that will make a big difference. You can use eye drops, and if you're having to use eye drops, you need to make sure that they're compatible. If you wear contact lenses, they're compatible with your contact lenses. But you really ought to combine eye drops with blinking exercises, because we just don't blink when we're looking at a screen. And if the average screen time is between 8 and 10 hours on a working day, and then several hours more on your phone or your tablet at home, you're barely blinking all day. And that can lead to quite long-term problems with people, dry eyes. So blinking is really important.
Blinking exercise is about right.
Blinking exercises.
Yeah. John, let's carry that on. So what, John, you do a lot of exercise. You're a very fit chap. You make me ill. You're very talented. But even so, what can somebody like me do to switch off at the end of the day? Because that's a big deal. You know, if maybe we're not getting our exercise as much as we should. Maybe we're eating too many Haribos or drinking too much coffee. But let's just say, what can we do, apart from what we've spoken about so far, to help us switch off?
This is a really good point. It goes back to what I said earlier about the fact that we used to have routines. So in the morning, we want to get ourselves motivated. We want to get ourselves energized. We want to get our cortisol levels up. We want to get our endorphins flowing. We want to feel full of life, the heart rate going. But at the end of the day, we want to go completely the opposite. We want to start switching off. And the one thing that we all used to do is to have a little bit of decompression time. We might laugh when we think about standing on the tube at sort of 5:30 on a of an evening, getting knocked about and battered. But we were switching off from work, and we had that decompression time. And by the time we got home, we had time to calm down. And a lot of that was because we were away from. So, listening to what Debbie said earlier about the number of hours that we're on the screens, it's shocking, but it's no surprise, because we get up in the morning, we're straight onto the screen, we're Zoom, or Teams, and other platforms are available, but we're stuck on the screen, and then when we're off away from our computer, we're then noses deep into our iPads or our phones, and it's constant. Then in the evening, we're straight onto the TV. All these devices, they emit blue light, and blue light will actually it will raise our cortisol levels, where what we're trying to do is actually drop of an evening. And that's got you got the sympathetic nervous system, which will get us into our fight or flight. And at the end of the day, I've had people saying to me, I just feel on edge at the end of the day. I feel really I don't know how to calm down. How do I do it? And actually the tips, the 20-20-20 is such a good idea to during the day, keep going. And then, as I've mentioned already, just loosen the shoulders, do the eyes, but also getting into breathing, and actually understanding while you're doing those exercises, or you're staring at something 20 meters away for 20 seconds, just engage in some deep diaphragmatic breathing exercises. And that will then engage your parasympathetic nervous system, which reduces the amount of cortisol. Now, at the end, if you've been doing that during the day, at the end of the day, it'll be very easy to fall into that and get that parasympathetic nervous system engaged. So it could be just going on a commute, and that could be walking away from your dining table, walking around the block for 5 minutes, and then coming back. That could be your commute. And during that time, just appreciate the fresh air, as I talked about in the morning, but just engage in some breathing. And then in the evening, partake in something that you enjoy. And that could be reading, it could be meditation, it could be exercise, it could be going to the pub. Watching TV is fine, but then be aware that that's giving blue light. So if you're going to go to bed at a particular time, get the TV off at least an hour before. An hour and a half to 2 hours would be better, but at least an hour before. Start disengaging with technology, set some routines up, lower the lights, and have a cup of herbal tea. My parents still drink, or my mum now still drinks coffee in an evening. And she's really struggle to sleep, and I'm like, but Mum, and she's actually switched to herbal tea now, and she's, oh God, I'm sleeping so much better. And it is true, but she's reversing what we want to do in the morning. And that really helps. There's lots and lots of things. Engage in the things that you do. Make your bed space somewhere that is relaxing, calming, somewhere that you want to go. Dim the lights, burn some oil, and read a book.
John, you're a proper evangelist. One very quick question, because we're coming to the end of the program now. One very quick is, what about work? When do we stop working in terms of the daily routine?
It's about output, isn't it? I think there's a lot of conversation on this at the moment about you shouldn't be sending emails before 9 o'clock. You shouldn't be sending emails after 5 o'clock. Well, actually, agile and hybrid working and the way that we've been working, I think it needs to be more about we choose when we do work and we choose when we engage with work. And you know what? It's up to you. I actually like starting work in the middle of the morning, but then finishing work late in the evening. I know other people who prefer to get up at the crack of dawn and then finish early afternoon. And I think as long as we can actually trust each other and accept that there are going to be occasions where it has to be deadlines and we're working with other people and alongside teams. But I don't think there needs to be any hard and fast rule. And again, that comes down to employers engaging with their people and imparting that trust and actually communicating trust with them. We all need to learn a new way of working. There's no, no getting away from that.
Thank you for that. And again, just to carry on a little bit, one final question to our ophthalmologist as well. You spoke about blue light, and Debbie and Sarah, I mean, all modern phones now have a blue light filter. Does that make any difference? Can we do anything to have our precious phones with us during the night time, or should we just leave them well alone, do you think?
Oh, you're asking a quite controversial question here.
Yeah.
Got to end on something.
The College of Optometrists do not endorse blue light blocking filters because there isn't enough evidence yet. However, I think there is going to be a lot of emerging studies coming forward to advocate that they will help, because that's what's happening in the States. But at the moment, the UK College are not adopting that stance.
Okay, so at the moment, avoid phones at night time. Follow John's advice in terms of switching off, basically chilling out. Thank you ever so much.
And on a computer, we always say switch your night mode on as well.
Okay.
So
that's a night for computers. So let's go backwards. So night mode for computers, switch off if you like the electronic equipment toward the end of the day. Work on 20-20-20, take exercise, make sure you have breaks, sit at 90 degrees to a window, don't sit outside the window. We have had some fabulous advice today. Thank you, all of you, very much. This, because of the technical issues, will go out as a recording. So if you do have questions having seen this, I know that Ergotron will put all of our email addresses up on the screen. Please do drop any of us a line, write to Ergotron. We'll write back to any questions you may have. But for today, thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much to our expert on the panel, who I think have done a fabulous job for us today. So thank you all, and goodbye.
thank you.
Thank you.